There's a story told in the Mishnah about Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. I guess I'm a little obsessed with him this evening. Yochanan ben Zakkai was the great sage who called upon 5 of his most brilliant students. And he said to them, go out into the world and witness how people act and figure out the best way for someone to live. Now, I guess if he'd been saying it now, he'd say, next time you're on a Zoom call, witness how people behave on their screens. Rabbi Eliezer came back and he said, the best way to live is with a good eye. Rabbi Joshua said, it's a good friend. Rabbi Yossi said, a good neighbor. Rabbi Shimon said, foresight. And Rabbi Elazar said, a good heart. Rabban Yochanan said to them, I prefer the words of Elazar ben Arach, a good heart. For his words, in his words, your words are included. An open heart. Ptach libi. Open my heart. That's what this year is about, these days of awe. Open my heart. It sounds simple, just have an open heart. Except most of the time I feel protective of my heart and actually have spent a lifetime protecting my heart instead of opening it up. You know, a small child, they don't close off their heart. Their hearts are open to everything until we start to present boundaries to them. And one of those boundaries is protect your heart from breaking. Protect your heart from becoming hurt. And all of that hardens us. No, not all of us, but many of us, in ways we may not ever realize. And the last 6 months, at least for me, the ways I covered my heart, they were exposed. When the way everything used to work doesn't work the same way anymore, I felt like I went into protection overdrive. And what was left was a kind of ornery, easy to anger, judgy, a touchy thing around the house. And it was about that time when I started writing down poetry for our theme song, Ptach libi, Open My Heart. And I started to really ask myself, what would that look like if I lived my life with an open heart? Then I remembered this story of Yochanan ben Zakkai and the good heart, and I started to play with that a little bit. An open heart instead of a good heart. And as Rabban Yochanan predicted, when you have an open heart, you have an open eye to see the world in a new way with open eyes. You have an open friendship because you can connect with your friends better because your heart accepts them openly. You become a more open neighbor, ready to help others in the community with a willing disposition, or checking in on your neighbors to see if they're all right, or wearing a mask to protect your neighbors around you, or keeping the streets clean, or feeding the hungry. Foresight. Now that, with an open heart, is to anticipate what your loved ones need, or to approach realistically what may be our futures for some time. More of the same, with major twists and turns along the way. I came to understand that we need the force of an open heart the most when things begin to change. And these last 6 months, and probably the next 6 months, and maybe even more, have been and will continue to be unprecedented in the change frequency index. I don't have enough time here to list all the ways our world has changed. You know them as well as I do, and perhaps even better than I do. Change signals unfamiliar territory. Unfamiliarity brings out the defenses to protect ourselves. Feelings of fear. Fear of being able to change. Fear to leave the way we've been doing things behind. A stubborn, hardened heart towards change, it moves in one direction, towards anger and frustration. Is that how you want to feel? Is that what you want your life to be? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do this together? We're lucky. We've got this time where reflection and renewal they're built into the structure of these days that we have together. Together tonight, together tomorrow, together next week. And every year during this time, I feel so many different emotions, from gratitude to unworthy, pleased with myself, and then disgusted with myself. My emotions accompany my thoughts throughout this journey that we're here together. Notice those moments for yourself, those subjects, those feelings, and ask yourself, why? Why am I so closed off to this? What would happen if I actually opened my heart to this possibility? At those moments when I can feel my heart closed off and I feel the heat in my head or in my body, I notice that my thoughts tend to reaffirm my beliefs about why I was closed off to whatever it is I'm closed off towards. But that's only because that's the job of my mind, right? To make sure that I'm right. That's the mind. I like this. I don't like that. This good. That bad. Tonight, I'm talking about the heart, the center of existence. A 15th century Italian commentator, Bartonura, commented about the heart, and he said that it is, quote, the generator of all the other forces, and it is the source from which emanate all of our actions. This theme, the phrase ends with tirdof nafshi, which translates as, let my soul pursue. Let my soul pursue this open heart. An active turning of the soul towards the generator of all of our actions. That's what we're trying to do this year. Let my soul pursue this open heart. At this point, I'm actually imagining quick cuts to your home. And some of you, I imagine, are like totally zen right now, and you've already opened yourselves up. You're like, oh yeah, I get this. And then someone else is sitting there, arms crossed, furrowed brow, open heart. I'm open. And then there's still another who is rolling his eyes, or another is sitting and listening intently. And then another looks like she's listening, but she's actually sleeping. I picture that some are mad because they know it's not easy to open up. They may have to pry it open a little bit, cut through that built-up hardness like scar tissue. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's years of built-up defenses to keep the heart from breaking or exploding. It's been hardened over years by anger and pain and fear and uncertainty. Something has hardened the heart and just made it very difficult to open. I picture others maybe crying because they don't think that they actually can open up. And I know that a lot of people are feeling isolated and lonely, and with every week it becomes harder and harder to feel connected, and that can lead our hearts down a dark road of despair. I picture others silent or weeping because they feel that their heart is numb or wounded and can't open up. And I don't think it will open up again. Like they're nursing heart pain from relationships broken, or family relations gone astray, or a loss of a loved one, or illness. So much can break our hearts. There are so many ways to harden or numb or squeeze or cover our hearts to protect it from breaking more. Each of us has our own challenges. We all have our own obstacles to overcome to open our hearts. And we have this time to recognize those challenges. Just notice those obstacles. Reflect on what's holding you back from opening your heart to this world. Menachem Mendel of Kotsk said, "There is nothing more whole than a broken heart." That Kotzker Rebbe believed that it was at those moments when the heart is most frail or most vulnerable that brings about actual wholeness. Each one of us is experiencing our own version of brokenness at all different levels. But it doesn't have to stop us. The poet Mark Nepo uses the image of a fish to help us to understand opening our hearts. Quote, "As fish must keep their gills open in order to survive moving through the water, humans must keep their hearts open in order to move through the difficult and wondrous river of experience. Letting life move through with an open heart, that's how we make medicine out of our suffering." If this pandemic has shown us anything, it has shown us the power and resiliency of the human beings on this planet. We are figuring it out. We're figuring out how to live this way. And the only way I believe we will not just survive, but raise our spirits during this darkest of times is to open our hearts. Be open to new technology. Be open to new schedules. Be open to new methods of communication. Be open to the new ways that we all can do business. And it also means, as author Heather Plett wrote, living with an open heart also means daring to be compassionate with those who think differently from me and those who respond to their own fear and anger differently from me. Not everyone will react to change the same way that you do. An open heart, it carries compassion, especially with those you're around the most. And that is the most urgent place to open our hearts, with those you love, because it welcomes them as they are. Yes, I'm talking about those physically at home with you, but it really means the people that you interact with on a regular basis. Your people, you know. It's a great place to start because they mean the most to you. And you can probably mess up, and it won't matter. And we're all going to mess this up, frankly. But it allows you to really see them, and for them to really see you as well by actively pursuing an open heart. It it not only brings you closer together, but it can provide strength. And that strength can bring you out into the world towards others. Finally, this openness isn't just limited to in-person relations. We were on a Zoom call. We were on our Zoom call for the High Holy Day prep class about this subject. What does it mean to have an open heart? And one of the people in the class, okay, it was my wife, she said something that was really beautiful. And full disclosure, a couple of days later, I come into the kitchen and I say to her, wow, that class was so good. Do you remember when that person said this? And she was like, yeah, that's me. Well, anyway, what she said was that when we open our hearts, the energy, it travels from you and into you. You open your heart, you open and become vulnerable, and you allow yourself to be taken in by the other person you're with. And the open heart is receptive as well. And it takes the other person whose heart is open for you to take. And it's like the energy is two souls of two people sharing their truth and sharing their love. Part of what that means for us here over these next couple of days is that this works best when both you and I are open to giving and open to receiving. Frankly, it doesn't matter if we're in the same room. If you can open your heart and I can open my heart, and Cantor Weiss too keeps her heart open, that's how we can actually connect together. Even through screens, even through wires, it's about our openness and vulnerability to embrace our humanity. Well, in the end, I did write the poetry to express how I feel about Open My Heart. So to end my message this evening, I'd like to share those words and the melody and the images that came from my exploration of this theme for the year. So here it is. Open up my heart.
There comes a time in every fight when it's been going on so long that the reasons it all began are far away and ancient news. When the only answer left is, that's the way it's always been. The way it's always been is broken. It's time to open up our view.
Let me hear my voice like I've never heard before. Let me see through eyes like I've just been born. Open up my heart, open up my soul to listen, to care, find goodness everywhere. Open up my heart, open up my soul to listen, to care, find goodness everywhere.
There comes a time in every age when there's no choice but to change, when we evolve and learn and grow and clearly see what has to be. And right now the only answer is we are only